MTN SME Hub. Link to growth. Link to success. Link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. In studio with us, we have got two wonderful entrepreneurs, Melisa Evans and Ayanda Mzondeki, and they are co-founders of AfroFuture Tech, and they help other entrepreneurs and they help all sorts of people succeed in business and in life. And we were talking before the break. We were talking about the chunky nature of the business and concentration risk. And I started off in the previous segment also asking you, how do you grow your concentration risk? Is that something that obviously it keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, which is what I think we are, because our business is purely growing other entrepreneurs. We constantly have this conversation with them. Do not have one client, have a pipeline, track your pipeline, look at the sales funnel. Yeah. So it's a constant conversation with us. And when we find ourselves in that situation, we sit down and go, Mel, we're in trouble. What are we doing? Are we networking more? Are we building, more of the pipeline so that we look at the future? Because if we don't do that, 6 months from now, we're out of business if that company doesn't give us the contracts.
Yeah. And how do you fund your growth? Because you're 50% year on year. Is that coming from profits? Is it coming externally? Is it still from your other businesses funding the growth with loan accounts and things like that?
So I think what we've learned in the last 3 years is how do we become more lean and efficient. So we've definitely really looked at our operational processes, and that's helped. We've had amazing clients that have come on board, and a lot of the revenue that's coming through is through new business. And that's helping because that's constantly growing. But again, being as efficient as possible and making sure that we keep lean. And the outcomes and the outputs are based exactly on what the deliverables are meant to be for clients, because that's quite critical.
My next question that I wrote down here is what would happen if you lost your two biggest clients, but I know the answer to that. Okay.
So we're learning as we grow in.
Yeah. So can I reinterpret what you said, is that you're actually funding from profit?
Absolutely.
So you're not going to your own pockets to loan accounts or to borrowing money?
We haven't since 3 years ago. We learned that lesson that way.
Okay. Your percentage of your cost of sales that is variable and fixed.
True.
What is the percentage? Like, how do you think about your? So if you get another project, do you make everyone permanent, or do you associate costs to that project? How do you think about that?
I think because we both come from a recruitment background and it's service orientated. Anything around people is something that we've mastered, and we obviously have bringing that experience across. So every project is obviously built based on what the project need is. For us, it's all about creating growth opportunities and employment opportunities. So depending on what the project needs are, we do two things. We collaborate with other businesses in terms of bringing the capabilities, or we obviously look at going with an FTC option, which is a fixed term contract option. So it's again, as lean as possible, and we're in technology. So we bring as much technology into the business as possible.
And why the leaning towards also a C around people with disabilities? Where does that come from? Why there?
That's passionate to me. So I have a disability, and I think the minute you talk disability, people are looking for physical disability. So I have a hearing impairment, use a hearing aid. I've been exposed to people with disabilities for the last 10 years.
Now I'm looking.
I know you're looking for it, right?
But I still can't see it, and I'm looking for it.
But the truth is, everybody has a disability, and in my core business, I focus purely on people with disabilities. And what I've noticed is the disability narrative is all about grant funding. It's all about handouts. And they're people that are honestly entrepreneurship ready. So when this opportunity became available, for me personally, my focus is on creating opportunities for people with disabilities, and allowing them to become entrepreneurs. So let's change the narrative, and people with disabilities can be entrepreneurs. They can create.
100%.
So that's where that's going, and I think it's nice to actually see that they're changing the way people think firstly, and they're employing people. So that's quite important.
And the tech part.
I am a tech fanatic.
Okay, all right.
I love everything tech.
Yeah.
AI, before AI was the buzzword. So I travel a lot. So I go internationally, I speak internationally. So when I go to the international conferences, we see the latest technologies, the latest AI platforms, software, hardware, and I breathe and live technology. So it was a no-brainer where we're combining technology, which is what is really needed in this country, in order for us to progress to the next level, and combine that with women, youth, and people with disabilities, they're previously disadvantaged, and empower that group of people.
So this business in the center, so to speak, because you, am I understanding correctly? You've got a business, you've got a business.
With direct competitors.
Direct competitors.
Yes. and you collaborate. You've got 50-50 in AfroFuture Tech, in another business together.
Correct.
So how do you, from a time perspective, and I know when the research is said, tell Allon it's not a side hustle. Okay. Okay. So I get that, but how do you decide if your other business is got a big order to fulfill and you're busy? How much time to spend? How do you split yourself between your two babies, so to speak?
That's an interesting question, Allon, because it's a constant conversation between the two of us. So for me, AfroFuture Tech is our new baby, and our new baby needs attention. Liama Consulting, on the other hand, I've got an amazing team. They literally run the business. I've built it so that I'm ready to exit. So this one is more aligned to my passion. I want to empower entrepreneurs. I want to grow entrepreneurs. And we also have a great lady by the name of Carol, who helps us run AfroFuture Tech so efficiently, and some of the technologies that we use. So it's a no-brainer where if I'm needed at AfroFuture Tech, I'm there. Or I tag Mel in. And like, it's your turn. So that's a benefit of having a co-founder, which we don't have in our other businesses. Yeah, and that's what you learned.
Okay, last question in terms of the business, the expenses as a percentage of revenue. Remember, the question's around profit or revenue. So, what is it quite flat? You don't have to tell me the number. Is it quite flat? Is it a high percentage, low percentage? Where does that sit in terms of your fixed expenses?
It is quite flat.
It's flat.
It is quite flat. As Mel mentioned, we need to keep it as lean as possible because a lot of our work is project-based.
Yeah.
So we cannot afford to have high expenses overhead on our books. So we have the same tech guy who has not increased his percentage, his bill for the past 5 years. He's amazing. Most of our suppliers become our partners.
Okay.
So we then negotiate and say, well, if we do this type of work for you, can you keep the price the same? So we also use a bartering system with them.
Okay, one last question for me in terms of your growth versus profitability. Is there a point in the future that you want to take dividend from this business?
Absolutely.
Yes, right? Okay. But there's a second part.
There's a question.
Have you both had that conversation as to when that's going to be and what percentage it's going to be?
I think the advantage is because we've been in business for so long separately, we know what to ask and what to make sure we are very clear from an expectation perspective. But yes, I feel like we've had the conversation.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't listening when she spoke about the percentages, but we have had the conversation numerous times.
Okay, I've heard enough. I did hear you. Okay. When we come back, I'll give Melisa and Ayanda some things to think about.
MTN SME Hub, link to business success.